it's just funny, right? Like how you went out of your way, you put the information out there, you showed them what exists, and they still found something to
Complain
like
about.
gripe about.
And then
Yeah.
they'll say that they'll never do it. But that's a failing of the game itself because they have no reason to do it. They can't care because the devs don't make them care. There's no reason to care.
Hmm.
There's no reward there for you actually. What is my reward for knowing how to quick swap right now? None, because I cleared doing 1, 2,
Nothing.
3. I did a 7-day challenge in Genshin recently, right? This was like maybe a month ago when I technically actually did it. I did one for Star Rail as well. A lot of people would say there's no depth in Star Rail or there's no depth in Genshin. I feel like there is depth in these games, but people don't actually try to explore it. And so then they just dismiss it and say that there's nothing there because they're bored of it. What do you think happens to a gacha game if it doesn't have like hard end game?
It dies immediately
Why?
because there's nothing to keep the player there.
You are so base, bro. That's the same exact feeling I have. Like if you don't have a hard end game, actually, I would go further than that. I would say having a
What up,
difficult
Josh?
end game gets the community involved in that game because there's something for them to strive for, which means there's a struggle. That struggle means they reach out to other players or they look for strategies. They go for tactics outside of just themselves. But if the game is too easy and they don't have to do that, there is no sense of community built.
I guess if you wanted two really good examples, we'll use one that kind of recovered and one that didn't recover. Genshin is a game that came out, and I think for 2 years, everyone was like building characters, right? Or playing the game or building characters, getting artifacts, whatever. The first 2 years of Genshin were glorious because it was like right smack dab in the middle of COVID or the beginning of COVID, and everyone was on the game.
Right?
Then they came out and they said, well, you know what? We have zero intentions on even making it in game. It's going to stress our players out. And
Right?
so many people dropped the game because of that, right? Because it's like, it wasn't specifically about the fact that they wanted harder content. It's that why are we building characters in? Like the game is piss easy. There's like, we can clear the game with no artifacts. There's no reason to be doing any of this stuff. Like, there's no reason to be grinding these characters. So people stop pulling. Some person literally made an account where they stopped pulling after they made that announcement, and all they did was log in and claim rewards, and they cleared everything like up to I think last year. Now they have in game, and funnily enough, the community kind of proved them right because now they're stressed out about in game. But outside of that, we'll talk about one of the examples that is a negative, which would be, and I hate that this happened, Black Beacon. Black Beacon was a game that I think had a lot of promise. It was a top down, similar to Diablo, Path of Exile, that style of gameplay.
Right?
And it had a really interesting, almost what's the name of that game? It's a MMO. It's very synonymous to how Lost Ark played, but as a gacha game. And you know, it has like its own team based element and whatnot, which I thought was really cool. This game had a lot of promise, a lot of potential, and you know, like for me, somebody that likes combos and all that kind of stuff. This game had that. It had the strategy, but it was still fun, and it gave you that dungeon grind, right? Like going through a dungeon. There were two problems that Black Beacon were very adamant against doing, and I don't know why. One was co-op, which I'm like, why would you introduce something that is similar to Lost Ark or Diablo or Path of Exile without the intention for co-op at all? Like that is a big reason why those games thrive the way they do. The second thing was that there was no true end game. So you can build these characters, there's gear, there's weapons, there's stats, there's materials, all kinds of stuff for you to like level these characters up. But their only version of end game was just going back through a dungeon where you would just get more gear. But the gear isn't, it's not like Diablo where it's like, oh, you got this super secret legendary, only one of a kind, you know, headpiece that gives you 400% crit rate, right? Like it
Right?
doesn't do any of that. It's just regular gear. So once I get my gear set, I move on. There's no reason for me to play it. The game EOS the same year that it came out, which was this year,
Right?
and it's just gone now. And I'm like, it's because you had a lack of incentive for players to continue playing your game, spending money on the game, cracking out on the game, whatever. It got so bad that, and I think CN still has their version of it, or Korea, but global no more. Global was stuck on. If chat knows, they might be able to help me out. I think global was stuck on patch 1.3, so they only made it 3 patches deep for what felt like 3 or 4 months. And it's like, there's no reason you should be stuck there. And it's because the developers were, not the developers, the investors were like, we're not giving you any more money. Like you're not making anything back. We can't give you more money. So they canned it.
I'm curious for Zenless specifically, because I haven't played Zenless since whenever Trigger came back on rerun. I've seen a lot of grumblings from the community specifically about GA recently. So I'm assuming DA got like a good amount harder. Do you think DA is too
Kind of.
easy currently? Do you think, or what do you think? What do you want
We
from the end
just
game?
had a conversation with Nix about this, which is like perfect timing. I don't know if I'd say DA is hard. I think Deadly Assault is had a conversation with Nix. So I'm trying to work on my tone for how I say things, right? So it doesn't come off a certain way. I think Deadly Assault is in a position where there are players who adapt and players who don't want to adapt.
Okay.
And that adaptation, it's probably the developers, like, right? Like whether or not the developers did a certain thing that made them feel some type of way, but it's not difficult because it's hard to play. I think the new iteration, which was the Thrall, I think the Thrall was the first one of the first few bosses that forced players to do research and like actually learn how to fight the boss. You can't just mash and get a good score. Even with for instance with me, I fought the Thrall with his preferred team, like the team that's supposed to be able to take him out, which is like Rupture, Yadhari, whatever.
Right.
And the first time I fought him without knowing how to fight him, I only pulled back, I think it was 16,000 points, 17,000 points, something like that,
Okay.
which is, you know, a 2-star clear. So for
Mhm.
the average player who just wants rewards, like, yeah, they'd get that. But for somebody who, for instance, for me, like I get kills, right? Like I kill bosses in
Right.
the game now. So getting basically 50,000 points less than what I would normally get is crazy. I went back, I learned how to fight them, and
Mhm.
my points jumped up to the 40,000 plus range. Because like now I understand how to fight the boss. And this boss, I feel like, was one of the first few that really forced players to do that. A lot of players were pulling back like point scores of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 points on record. That is the lowest scores that we've had in Deadly Assault since the release of Deadly Assault. But now those same players, they're learning how to fight it. They're looking up material and research.
Mhm.
They're talking in the community, asking players what to do with their teams. And now they're getting those proper scores, 20Ks, 30Ks, whatever the case may be.
The reason why I really like that you said that, like specifically you talked about learning right there, is because, dude, I literally every time I talk about this, I sound like a shill. I swear. Arknight's Enfield made me realize how much fun you can have in games when they force you to actually learn stuff about the games. Actually, technically, it wasn't even Arknight's Enfield. I did a 7-day challenge in Genshin recently, right? This was like maybe a month ago when I technically actually did it. I did one for Star Rail as well. A lot of people would say there's no depth in Star Rail or there's no depth in Genshin. I feel like there is depth in these games, but people don't actually try to explore it. And so then they just dismiss it and say that there's nothing there because they're bored of it. But the reason why I say that I want things like difficult endgame is because if you have this difficult endgame for people to strive for, then they actually try to fish and look for that depth, right? An
Yep.
example, are you familiar with like endgame bosses in Genshin?
Some of them, yeah.
Okay, do you know the crab boss, the one you have to like break the bloom cores for?
Yeah, I think I heard you talking about that, and I've seen some gameplay for it. I haven't fought it myself yet though.
Okay, so one example of depth is like I have to, for that boss, he's going up in the air, he's untargetable, you have to break the cores, right? If you shoot a dendro thing, in my case, it was a charge attack. If I shoot a charge attack at the right timing, then that bloom core I just spawned will break the second the other bloom core, the crab's blooms or whatever they're called, like the mushrooms that he spawns, it'll break the second those come out, and it'll make me take him down from the sky faster. On top of that, because of the positioning of the actual mushrooms in there, I had to change how I attacked on Nefer, right? I had to change my auto attacks to cleave in between the two things, which is something I don't do for any other thing inside of there. On top of that, as I was playing, another thing I had to do was I had Deepwood on my Zhongli. Zhongli can only apply this can apply this Deepwood off field, but it's only if his pillar stays up. Apparently you don't get to keep your pillar unless a boss is not inside of it, or like a boss breaks the pillar when you go into it. So I had to learn how to actually place my pillar. So I'd actually keep the Deepwood applying throughout the entire fight, right? There's a lot of these micro interactions throughout the fight as I was playing Genshin that I had to do in order to optimize for the clear. And that kind of depth, that kind of learning that I did, that kind of exploring the system is way, way more fun in my opinion than just going to an endgame mode, saying I go there so I can collect premium currency. I'm just expected to get the things. That sounds like such a boring experience for me to see in a game. I don't understand. Maybe you can help clarify this for me. Or I'd imagine you probably feel the same way. I don't know why I would want it. So the end game, every time I go there, I just clear it on the first try. I get 2 extra pulls, and that's it. That's my experience in the end game. I don't know why I'd want that.
So I think based off new information that I just learned, or just had this conversation with Nix earlier before I got in the call with you. Now 3, let's go with 3 different factions here, or splits, if you will. I'm sure there's more, but we'll settle it at 3. So there is where you and I align, which is like, I want the challenge. I want to have to learn. I want to, do more, right? Because like the rewards or whatever. There's the other group, which is the one that just wants the rewards. And to be fair, like they just have a gambling addiction. They don't want to admit that, which is whatever. And then there's this middle group where the middle group wants, like, obviously the rewards are nice, but they want to learn, or at least they want to be able to enjoy in game, if you will. But something is stopping them from doing that. Whether that may be like their enjoyment of the game is being cock blocked because they, the developer made whatever. So I'll take the literal example that we were just talking about, which is Deadly Assault for Zenless and the new Thrall boss. Thrall hard counters anomaly. Like you just, unless you're playing Miyabi, there is no anomaly, right? Like he does not let you play anomaly into that boss. And so many anomaly players or anomaly mains, even though they may have other options to fight Thrall, and that's clearly the designed intent is to fight him without anomaly, because they can't play anomaly, they have an issue with it. And it creates this indifference between like, hey, you aren't supposed to do that thing, and here are all the other options you could do to enjoy the fight or like clear it, but you're so you don't want to do that you choose to just kind of hate it, right? Like it's just not for you,
right?
And it's like, okay, so now we have like, how do you address all of that? How do you address whatever's going on? And I think it's weird. I think it's really weird because you can't appease all 3. If you, and this gets into what you and I were talking about like very briefly, but I think we both made videos on it. If you make content for what we'll consider the casual player, where it's just like purely for rewards, right? And you lose the player who wants to like put in work, grind, explore your game, whatever. You lose the person looking for the depth and exploring the game because there's no reason for him to do it. If everything is just like, oh, piss easy, I just do whatever I want, I'm never bothering to explore in the game because I don't have to. If you make it too hard or too difficult and you don't have that, I guess, reward factor that the casual person wants, well, now they don't want to play the game. They don't want to get better. And now we have this new middle that's like, I want to get better, but only under my criteria or only under my conditions. And you can't hit all 3, right? Like it's maybe there is a way and I just don't know it, but from the way that I look at that, I feel like you can't hit all 3. Me personally, I like the challenge and I'm okay with it going in that direction. Like I understand that people, in this case, developer issues, right? Like the developer makes a boss a certain type of way, or anti-anomaly in this case. But because of the nature of gacha games, I feel like I'm okay with it, right? Like I don't think there's ever a point or ever a gacha game where like I'm only playing one thing and I can get away with it. Maybe Arc Knights might let us do that. I don't know. You would know more than I would, but I don't think they would. Wuthering is like the only one that I know, like I could jump on my Genshin account and just beat the shit out of something, given that she just has good stats, right? Like the Genshin team is just good for me, so I don't really have to worry about anything.
Right.
And then I just, I keep it going. But that's a big reason. Like people always ask me like, why do you have 50 accounts in Wuthering? I get bored. If I can beat something without having to think too much on it because it's just overpowered or it's that powerful, I don't want to play it. And I'll look for something else to give myself a challenge. Like I make my own challenges.
I feel like people are there's like 2 avenues for this. So I feel like a lot of the time when I hear conversations around Endgame, I feel like we're almost appealing to like a mythical player because we talk about like casual players. I'll give you an example. I'm a casual in Genshin. Stygian Onslaught exists, right? There's no shot in hell I'm clearing this game mode for like another 3 months or something like that, right? But does the existence of Stygian Onslaught make Genshin Impact worse for me as a player, as someone who's not engaging in the mode? No, it doesn't.
Of course not.
Yeah, exactly.
But you want your rewards, bro. How else are you going to get your 2 pulls?
That's so Stygian doesn't even have pulls. That's the funny part. Stygian literally has, there's no pulls from Stygian, bro. You don't get any pulls from Stygian. There's no pulls, bro. You get a 10 or you get a 30-day weapon skin that you can use that expires, bro.
And it's for the people who can clear it, but because you, the casual player, can't get it, now it upsets you.
All right, to be clear,
It's
the
FOMO.
primos, there are primos for the first 3 difficulties, which you can co-op, which are easier than doing Abyss anyway. So, the difficulties that actually matter, there are no primos in Stygian for the ones that actually matter. Back to the point, I don't think a casual player legitimately like. I feel like often, and I kind of fell into this trap too. I would appeal to like a mythical casual player that doesn't exist. Casual players, they play the game, they play the story, they enjoy it. They'll use their units occasionally. I'm a casual player in Star Rail. I did Abyss, or I did MOC. It was fun. I did that. I had my fun doing that. And then, am I going to try Anomaly Arbitration? Maybe sometime in the future, but it's not like I'm not stressed about it. Like, I'm playing other games, I'm having a fun time. That's the average Gacha player. The average Gacha player is not stressing about these things. It's the people who are playing these games for like, or like exclusively playing like these games or whatever, that's talking about these problems. I don't think like casual players are, like the tourists are. I don't think they care. I feel like
They
we're
do
appeasing a
care,
crowd
though.
that doesn't. I don't think they do. I don't think I see a casual player talk about Stygian Onslaught and see them say that they care. I don't think a casual player does that. I think it's the
Well, then,
player who's like, I think it's the player who's like decently invested into the game, but doesn't want to have to pull X unit that cares.
you know what? That's valid, and I'll even double down with you on that. Just like as you're mentioning it, because back whenever I was talking about this stuff with Zenless a few months ago, there was a point that I made that I caught flack for, but it was, you're not casual once you start trying to conquer endgame. And I
Mhm.
don't think that players really understood or value what that means, because to them, the casual player doesn't care about endgame. So like, let's go with what you just said, right? And I agree. And they would just keep it pushing. They'll play the story, they'll play the events, you know, they
Mhm.
might do the co-op Stygian for those couple of primos, whatever. But whatever they can do is what they'll do, right? Like, and then and they don't really press it. The person who cares about endgame is no longer a casual player. And the way that I look at it is like, once you start building characters, you start looking in the meta and optimizing builds. You want your 1-to-2 crit ratio, you need your 3k attack. The moment you start doing that, you are no longer a casual player, because
Mhm.
you have crossed the border or crossed the line of what a casual player would be.
I feel like there's also like a weird mentality here, right? Where you feel like you have to clear every single piece of the content in the game. Does the existence of Dire mean that me clearing Fearless was not a fun and enjoyable task if that's all I could clear, or that's all I went for? Would it not be like the same kind of drive for me to clear that, the same enjoyment I get out of that, the same kind of struggle I get out of that? Why does the existence of Dire being an even harder difficulty make it so my grind to clear Fearless, my enjoyment from clearing Fearless, why does that get diminished because Dire's existence? I don't understand that mentality either.
I want to say participation award, or yeah, I'm right. Participation awards. Because like I can't really, I don't know what else to call it. You know, like it's you see it all the time. It's always a matter. Excuse me. It's always a matter of, as you mentioned, I want it. Someone else has it, so I should get it too. What I was talking about with Nick's earlier, like getting at, and we didn't go too much in depth on it, but at what point do we push a player? Or does a player push themselves? You know, like
Mhm.
you want this thing, you know how to get it, and you know what it takes to get it, but you don't want to do the work to get it, right? Like you don't want to put in the effort, but you want the results. What else will we call that at that point? And so I feel like you have to accept that, right? Like as a player,
Mhm.
at some point, the players have to accept that. And like I'm just kind of known as the guy that blames players. Uh Working on that, chat, by the way. But it's really hard. It's really hard. And without saying like I grew up in an era, because Nix doesn't like that. He says grow the fuck up, he tells me. But I'm not that way. My brain doesn't work that way. My brain doesn't work that way where it's like if I want something, I'm gonna figure out how to get it, or like what I can do, what my means are to get it, and do my best to do that. You and I talk about content a lot, and one of the things that I feel like we can relate to, that we've both kind of done, not so much excuse me, not so much me lately because of the weird inspiration funk, but we both wanted a certain type of content to be received well. We both wanted, you know, the gratification, which in this case would be views.
Mhm.
And we did research, we put in the work, we did some tests, and we figured out what, you know, what got us those results.
Right?
So we did it. And like that's something that I say, like that's an attestment to like what we wanted, and we went for it, and we put in the effort to get it.
Mhm.
And you know, you can take that away from like in game or just gaming in general. but that's just humans, right? Like, and I feel like currently in the gacha space, I've been met with the most amount of players or people that don't want to do that. Like they will come up with any reason necessary to not do it. And it's weird to me because I'm one lazy motherfucker. I'm super, if I don't want to do something, I don't want to do it. Right? I'm super lazy. And it feels like I'm being met with people that aren't really lazy. They want the reward without doing the work. And it's entitlement. I don't know. It's so hard to talk about Endgame with the community in mind.
Let's remove like entitlement and whatnot. I feel like they're not benefiting themselves. I'm gonna go back to like the Arknight's Enfield example. But when I had fun in that, the biggest thing I have fun with in that game is as I learn the systems, I am rewarded with having a better experience in the game because I see, oh, this thing that I'm putting effort into, I'm getting more out of it. I learn how to use the factory. Now all of a sudden, I can see my factory output is giving me like XYZ more, right? I put effort into doing that. It feels rewarding for me to do that. Oh, look, I'm going to the combat. I learned how my teams function together. Now I made a good team comp. Now I can make my combo skills flow together. I'm using them in the proper order, and combat is flowing so much more smoothly. This applies outside of just endgame as well, is the problem I'm getting at. I feel like people want to just, I mean, it's literally instant gratification, but it ends up creating a bad problem for them in terms of like their actual enjoyment, because I'm not sure what is, maybe you can comment on how this is like in Zenless, but for Wuthering Waves, for example, when we talk about, say, 4 Nightfall on Zani, so many players don't even know what that is, which is like essentially like the combo that makes, imagine like the charge attack combo for Mavuika. It's essentially what 4 Nightfall is, except for Zani. It makes her the best DPS in the game. Zani is the best DPS in the game, but the community doesn't know it because they never have to interact with it, which is a problem with Endgame. To like loosely tie this onto it, they don't have to try for that because there's nothing in the game to force them to actually learn that. Therefore, they don't get the enjoyment of actually learning the 4 Nightfall and then actually seeing their damage come out as a result. This is why I want to see harder endgame, or even just like more challenges in the game as in general. I'm having fun in Arknight's Enfield because I go in the open world and I'm actually somewhat challenged. Well, not that challenged, but like a little bit challenged to like go do puzzles, for example, right? That little bit of stress there where I have to like actually learn. I have to actually put effort into understanding whatever I'm doing is great. And I feel like in modern gacha games, I'm running into that issue where if I don't like go out of my way to do it, I'm not getting that feeling. And I feel like it's because the community just expects to like constantly get, I mean, it is like a participation trophy, but I feel like I want a better word for it because they're shooting themselves in their foot. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like there has to be a way to express that they're not helping themselves have more fun with the game because they check out of the game, right? One of the biggest complaints was with Wuthering Waves is the lack of content in the game. But that lack of content exists because they can't add harder endgame because the player base is, I don't want to say entitled, but they just don't care for it, right? They don't want to put in that extra effort. They just want to see this thing. When I mentioned that Wuthering Waves needs a mode like Stygian Onslaught, people cry about that. They say, I don't want that. I don't want to actually be challenged. I want to do the end game I have currently, or I want DA, which is, I think, also doesn't solve the issue. Actually, hold on, do you agree with this? I think when I played the game, I had to implement artificial challenges for DA for it to actually be challenging. I don't think DA itself is like a good enough, like that tier of endgame. The reason why I want something like a Stygian Onslaught is because Stygian Onslaught is hard enough to where it forces you to actually learn the ins and outs of whatever it is that you want to do. I don't think DA does that. Unless you're pushing for score, which I don't think is good enough of a reward.
We're talking about like for Wuthering, right?
Or just in general for like endgame modes. Because I guess that would apply to both Zenless and
I think Stygian
Wuthering.
might be... Stygian is, if not Stygian, then Tower, like Zenless Tower. Those two probably tie for me when it comes to like current modern day best in-game in a gacha game. Those two tie for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were looking at this from like, I guess like Wuthering's perspective, I think they need to get rid of Tower of Adversity altogether. Like they tried to copy Spiral Abyss and, you know, twist it. I don't think it's good. I don't think anyone's thought it's good since it launched, and they've been saying that for the longest time. I don't think Wuwa is like in game at all. Yo, Indy, thank you for the sub, baby. I appreciate that. Like Wuwa is just like a fun mode, I guess. I don't know, but I really don't see it being like in game, if you will.
Right.
So I would say take both. Take Stygian and take a form of Deadly Assault or Tower in this case, right? Like a score system, if you will. And then give it to the game. But the reason I say both is because you need something to tease isn't the word. You have to ease them into it. But while I agree with what you're saying about like they need a reason or like they're lacking of, and you know, like they're just not incentivized to learn, or it doesn't teach you anything. But you can't just it's like if I took my dad and he's never played an action RPG in his life and I just dumped him into Dark Souls 1, right? Like he's not gonna have a great time unless he's a masochist, which you know most of us Dark Souls enjoyers are, but my dad isn't, so he's not gonna have a great time.
Right.
But if I gave him something maybe like Batman, he's familiar with DC. It's a really good button mash game, and it teaches you some form of like combos, right? Understanding when it's your turn, when it's not your turn, how to steal your turn, whatever.
Fuck.
And if I were to give my dad that and then teach him or like let him play Dark Souls after he finishes Batman, I think he would have been eased into the genre more, so he's more readily available to adapt or learn the harder stuff. But I think having something that's easier first, or just like available to them, and then giving them Stygian will be good. And even if you wanted to take it a step further, which I don't think a gacha game would ever do this, but I highly encourage that they should do this, make some type of soft check or hard check. What I mean by that is like if you were to look at Marvel Rivals or any of the ranked type of FPS games, right? All of them have what we know as placement matches, and then they have, you know, the ranks. So two things happen with that. One, placement matches are a great way to see where your current skill level is compared to the game and everyone else that's on the leaderboard. And if you suck, you go at the very bottom. If you're too good, then you know, not the very top, but you get somewhere towards the top. It's easier for you to get to that top with the top players if you're the better you are.
Okay.
And then at the same time with your rank, right? A bronze player is not playing with a gold player in the gold lobby. And there's certain systems in place like bans. And I think League of Legends does this after, I want to say bronze, but I don't fully know. You would know before I would. But like banning characters, right? Like that whole ban system,
Right.
it's not immediately like taught to you or available to you. When I first learned League of Legends and the game is teaching me how to play and go through my lane, it's not teaching me about bans. It's teaching me how to play the game. And I think that's a great way to ease, you know, a player into something. Same thing with Rivals. I'm not worried about banning characters. I can pick whoever I want and I don't have to worry about the team not having something or knowing like what's good. Basically matchups. It's not until you get to gold 2 that you need to start learning that stuff. Like, okay, I'm playing Invisible Woman and I hate getting, you know, like dived on. So my immediate bans would be something that's anti-Invisible Woman. But if my teammate wants to play dive, well, that I can't ban it, right? So like now I need to learn matchups. Having Stygian be like the hardest thing to do, and you obviously tweak it for each game, but having something like that and having some type of system in place to stop players from getting access to this thing that they're clearly not ready for. And that's why I say I know that a gacha game wouldn't do it, but if they did it, it might be negatively received from the community, but it would be a much stronger alternative to getting what you just said, which is forcing players to learn or like realize and accept things, right? Because like if you want to do Stygian, which you know we both know is pretty difficult, regardless of like whether or not you have characters, because you could have all the new characters, but that still doesn't mean you're clearing Stygian. You have to know how to play.
Right.
So if I can't do like the ranked placement, whatever, right? Like I can't pass Stygian, you know, trial number 1. If I can't pass that, I can never play Stygian, which means I'm not ready, which means I need to figure out how do I pass trial so that I can play Stygian. Having that, I'm in favor of 100%.
I think gacha games almost shot themselves in the foot. I mean, I'm not sure if this is a good or a bad thing. I keep going back to Enfield. I'm gonna reference this thing like 80,000 times in every conversation.
It feels good.
I'm the biggest. I'm literally the Enfield chill, bro. I feel like what they're doing right is that they're setting up their player base from the start to be forced to learn. Because if you don't actually sit down to interact and learn, interact with the tutorials and whatnot, you're not gonna have a fun time playing the game because you're not gonna understand how the game works, right? You have to actually put effort to get something out of the game. As it stands in the other gacha games, you don't have to do that, right? Which isn't inherently a bad thing. Actually, it's not true. for like lore, for example, I think a lot of like the lore heads actually do put in effort to like actually learn, right? They'll actually like go out of their way to like understand the lore and whatnot, right? Or like they'll go look up like small things from like whatever, or they'll like go read the things inside of like books or whatever, right? I feel like those people put in the effort and then they get the enjoyment out of it. And as a result, there's a community there that actually interacts with the lore in a more interesting manner. The problem I have right now, and this is probably true in Zenless as well. In Zenless or in Wuthering Waves, nobody wants to learn shit because there's no reason for them to learn anything.
Agreed.
Nobody. I'll give you an example actually. So Galbrenna, are you familiar with Galbrenna's kit?
I love that character, bro. She got dash combos.
Dude, yeah, she literally exactly. So she has combos in her kit. You can do different combos relative to what other characters you're running in your team, right? A lot of people don't know that. I made a video on actually I made two videos because there's two like major combos to highlight there. One of them is she has a heavy attack only rotation. So if you're playing with characters like Yuno or Murtefi, it's good for that because it you have the extra heavy attack buffs from them, so it does more damage there. She also has an echo skill only rotation. So if you're playing with like Cho Yuen, for example, it does more damage there. Or if you have like extra buffs or whatever, like there's a field buff that gives you echo skill damage, or there's a field buff that gives you heavy attack damage, you can utilize them to get extra value out of that, right? One of the most common comments I get on that video is, "This is too hard. I'm not gonna do it." I don't even think it's that hard, but like that's like besides the point. Why would we? First of all, why would you even go to a video like that just to comment that? That's kind of weird in the first place. I don't even understand. But like second of all,
because they think it's easy. Like it's always like a check. You know what I mean? Like let me go. Hey, this video caught my interest. I would love to learn the new Galbrenna combo. Let me see what it is. Oh wait, you pressed more than 4 buttons? Yeah, no, I don't want to do that, bro. It's too hard. And then they'll hit you with the, well, you're forgetting about mobile. Your mobile. You're alienating mobile players. And I'm like, brother, like I'm not. I don't play on mobile. I'm not alienating anybody. This is just a combo. Like, it's never my job to like teach you how to play on whatever controller or platform of choice you happen to play on. But providing you the information to do the combo, that's a different thing. But it's just funny, right? Like how you went out of your way. You put the information out there, you showed them what exists, and they still found something to
complain about,
gripe about.
And then they'll say that they'll never do it. But that's a failing of the game itself because they have no reason to do it. They can't care because the devs don't make them care. There's no reason to care. There's no reward there for you actually. What is my reward for knowing how to quick swap right now? None, because I cleared doing 1, 2, 3. If I go I go Camellia, Sanhua, Verena, free to play deluxe team. I go do that. I go standard 1, 2, 3. I go into tower. I'm clearing that. Even the hardest tower right now, I'm clearing that. Standard 1, 2, 3. I'll clear that middle tower right now with a team, a 1.0 team that is mediocre as hell, free to play deluxe. That's clearing. That's crazy to me. Like the fact that the hardest endgame in the game is so easily done. There are teams right now in Wuthering Waves, the teams that most people use. Most people don't even use Camellia because she's kind of outdated at this point. Most people use teams like Cartethia, right? Cartethia is the most pulled character. Do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know how much stronger Cartethia is than Camellia?
I think like 43%, or is that the weapon number I'm thinking of?
You're thinking of Furlova's weapon, I think.
Okay.
So we'll just say I'll just say she's much stronger, right? It's like it'd be like comparing a Miyabi to like a Anton. All right, maybe not that bad. It'd be like comparing Miyabi to like
Jane.
Soldier 11.
Oh my gosh. Okay, never mind.
It's like it'd be like comparing Miyabi to Soldier 11. Cartethia is so much stronger. She can literally clear in half the time. It would take that Camellia team specifically. She would clear in half the time. It's actually kind of ridiculous. But people are using that team and getting the clears, right? So you can already clear doing 1, 2, 3, not even like sweating on the Camellia team. People are using the Cartethia team. It's the most pulled character in the game. That team clears so disgustingly easily. The devs, I feel like it's the devs' fault for not giving them a challenge, which is why I'm just the biggest shill ever. I love that Arknight's Enfield is giving me that challenge. I'm literally the biggest shill ever. I love that I have to actually go out of my way to learn this stuff. I love that there's a reason for it. I love that there's a reason that people care. And if you don't care, if you're someone that doesn't care, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, bro. I haven't attempted Stygian Onslaught yet because I'm not ready to do Stygian Onslaught. I haven't even attempted it. I don't lose a drop of sleep over the fact that I can't do Stygian Onslaught. One day, I want to build up to be able to do Stygian Onslaught. That day's not going to come for multiple months. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I can still interact with the game. I still have a fun time interacting with the game. Maybe I'll never do like I technically have never cleared tower in in Zenless Zone Zero, but I still had a fun time doing that game. I would interact with Deadly Assault. I interacted with Shield Defense. I did both of those. I had a great time playing that game, right? I interacted with the story. That was fun, right? I interacted with the characters of the world, right? I went on whatever waifu date event that they're having right now, where you like go hold the newest character's hand or whatever, right? I did that too. Like I had fun with the game, so I don't think I feel like tired of almost like appealing to. I feel like I have to appeal to like a person who doesn't exist.
I see where you're coming from on that too. And then just real quick, Inari, it's not Inari's from my chat said, I think we're getting into a strange place if there's no reason to play if a meta isn't needed. Then he says, why would any game that isn't the hardest ever exist then? It's not that, right? Like we're not saying that there's no reason to play if a meta isn't needed. We're exclusively talking about in-game with this conversation, right? Not like a game as a whole, but in-game, like period, just off the cuff. And so when we're talking about in-game, meta or no meta, that wouldn't matter. It's a matter of the challenge itself. And Kendrick brought up CZN. I've been like super CZN lately. Chaos Zero Nightmare is a really good example of that, right? Where it's like I'm grinding my deck. I'm trying to build whatever like perfect deck that I'm looking for, my team. I'm getting the gear because there is something for me to achieve or challenge with myself at the end, right? Which is in game. And it's rinse, cycle, and repeat. If the game doesn't have that, there are things that you can do in the game, obviously, like, you know, the story, the events, whatever. And I don't even want to say that most people don't play it for that, but this is why we're having this conversation, or rather this topic, right? Is like, okay, so if there's a subsect of players who only care about playing story, hanging out with their favorite characters and doing the events, right? All that kind of stuff, then why focus on that player for in-game? Why would you cater to a player like that who doesn't care about in-game, right? And you make decisions for your in-game based on this player who actively isn't trying to play in-game. And that's where we get this issue where it's like there's a lot of players who consider in-game not as a challenge or difficulty like it should be. It's just a reward collector. To them, it's like, hey, there's polychrome here, right? There's astrite here. There's stellar jade over here. There's primo gems over here. Because it exists, I am obligated. I'm entitled to being able to clear that. Those primos are mine, right? The game should just let me get the primos. This is how a lot of the conversations go when it comes to the gacha space as a whole. If you go into anyone's chat, any comment section, whatever, and you start talking about in-game, or you listen and read about in-game, whatever, I guarantee I'll put $300 on it, which is enough for somebody to hit pity. I guarantee you that you're gonna go in and you're gonna find someone who says something along the lines of how they just want their rewards. They only care about however much it costs to clear to get the rewards. If they can't get rewards, then it's a bad end game. There's no reason that they should do blank, blank, and blank for whatever, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, now your follow-up, right? Do you think that's fine, but what's wrong with letting casuals have a bone too? Participation awards, right? That's what I mentioned earlier. Dark Souls doesn't let a player win. And I bring up Dark Souls a lot because it's everyone knows what Dark Souls is, right? And the reason I bring it up is because Dark Souls is not made for you to win. It's made for you to face a challenge and then overcome that challenge. Players that play Dark Souls, gamers that play Dark Souls, the enjoyment is overcoming the challenge. That is a gamer 101 feeling. Yes, I beat it. Oh my God, bro, I've been fighting this thing for 3 weeks and I finally beat it. I finally beat the game. Oh my gosh, Sephiroth, final boss Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII was so difficult and I finally beat him. I destroyed him, right? It's a good feeling. When you take that feeling away to give it to the person who doesn't want to put the effort in at all, but they want to be able to say, I beat it too.
He spit.
It's no longer a challenge. This is where that separation comes into play. And you could, even if it's not Dark Souls, you could apply this to anything. Fighting games, shooters, League of Legends, card games, Uno. Imagine playing Uno with your family, right? And you suck at playing Uno, but your parents always let you in, just so that you can say you won a game of Uno. It makes you feel good, but what about the other 6 people at the table? We all have to throw our hands just to make you feel good, right? So it's like, I didn't mean to do the 6-7 right there. But it's this very weird split where players who, which I say entitled, they feel entitled to the reward, right? Like as you mentioned, like why not let them have a bone? I'm letting you have something that you didn't earn. Whereas this group of players over here, they want to earn it. Like they're looking for the challenge. So you can't really, and this is a gacha thing specifically that I've come to learn about. They don't consider in game what actual in game is. Like to them, in game is not in game. In game is a reward collector.
Hmm.
But everywhere else outside of the gacha sphere, in game is like that is the ultimate challenge of the game, or at least it's supposed to be.
One thing I wanted to bring up is why this matters. It's because, actually, I'm curious about your thoughts in Zenless Zone Zero specifically, because I'll state that, I'll just say straight up, this is the case in Wuthering Waves. Because you don't have this end game to push people, what happens in reality is you create a community of people who are completely checked out from the actual gameplay of the game itself. You don't see meta discussions in Wuthering Waves because there's nothing for them to discuss the meta about. You don't see people talking about Galbrena combos. You don't see people talking about quick swapping. You don't see people actually engaging in quick swapping or learning quick swapping or pushing the meta. You don't hear people talking about how to counter specific bosses. And this is all because there's never a reason for them to. They don't have to care. I'm going to keep bringing it back to this point, but like if the devs are making it so the players don't have to care, so the players won't actually engage in talking about whatever. Would people care about Movika's charge attack combo if you didn't have Stygian? Probably not as much, right? Would you hear about things like Facial having to auto attack or Zhongli having to auto attack on the Hera for like specific comps or whatever if you want to clear? No, you wouldn't hear anything about that at all, actually. These things wouldn't even exist.
Yeah.
The only reason the Gene Fall bug exploit was even discovered was because endgame was hard and people were trying to figure out how to make Gene work, right? So they found out you can use like Zhongli to make it so Gene like gains enough, or you can like trap a boss between GOMC and Zhongli's stuff and end
Not
up
even
like
just
pulling it
that,
up.
but have you seen some of the 4-star clears for Stygian? Like Stygian is so, when I say so good, I don't mean that like it's fantastic mode, but I mean that it's doing its job so well that it's forced players, or rather I won't use the word force, it's incentivized players or encourage them to go back to older teams or older units and just completely start coming up with new strategies to the point where like they're beating Stygian with almost whatever they want. I say almost because Stygian is still the Genshin's hardest end game, and there is like a meta to Stygian, but Stygian resets, so it's always changing, right? Like some weeks it's gonna be, you know, this cast of characters or archetypes or whatever. Other weeks it's gonna be these elements, so on and so forth. But Stygian's been out for what, a couple patches now, a few patches now. I want to say predominantly the hasn't it been out all this year or
Honestly,
since earlier this year?
I don't know exactly when it came out, honestly. But yeah,
I don't remember when it came out either, but it's been out for a good little bit. The first month it came out was real rocky because like everyone was like, oh, it's for whales only. And then you started to get players who were like, wait a minute, I'm not a whale, but I'm really good at the game. And they started breaking it down. And that's how you got, it's been out for three patches. Thank you. That's how you got to this point now where now you have more players who are more readily accepting that the Genshin that Stygian players are playing, that's a whole new Genshin impact to them. You're not just doing 1 2 3 4 rotate, 1 2 3 4 ult, 1 2 3 4 skill. They're doing, you know, like, okay, Flip literally sent me a combo because I'm learning Flynn's. Flip sent me a combo which was for a triple burst. Then he found out like, hey, that triple burst stuff is like, it's cool, but it's a DPS loss because of the rotation, like the time. So then he sends me a new combo. And you know, seeing this type of stuff in Genshin was very foreign to me because I'm like, that what, Genshin doesn't do this.
Exactly.
But it's EE, which is like basic attack 1 2, or my bad, skill, normal attack 1 time into Q. Then you do 2 rotations of 5 normal attacks into a dash cancel, which will build up enough energy for you to do another E, then another Q, then 1 more N, and then you swap off. But this is so much more than just like 1 2 3 skill burst, 1 2 3, you know, burst, swap in every other character, burst, and then go back to your DPS. Like all of these characters now have these more unique combos that are for specific things, right? Like the official thing that you talked about earlier. This type of stuff is like, hey, official needs like 1 point of energy in the middle of the rotation, so you have to do a normal attack here, or you need to do a skill here and then like hold it, right? Little
Right.
stuff like that is what makes players want to get better, or rather like look more into it, because that is the depth and the challenge that this, even if it is a minority, that's what that minority wants. They want the depth, they want the strategy, they want the challenge to be rewarding, right? Like they want that payoff to be rewarding, which is why they look for that kind of stuff. To give, I guess, okay, and Nari, I'm really trying to like have you understand it, but it's hard to do that when you're trying to explain something, and not saying that this is you, right? You might just be playing devil's advocate. In order to explain something to that type of player, you have to get them to not think the way that they do or feel the way that they feel. And it's really hard to do that, because the player who wants the bone, wants the reward, it doesn't matter what you tell them. As long as I get the reward, that's all I care about. Anything that stops me from getting that reward is bad, because that means they don't get the reward, right? And that's all they care about. The minority, which is what, keep in mind, in-game modes are not created for the casual player to just get the bone, which is why I said earlier, it's predominantly, this is something that I've only experienced in the gacha community. The only place that I've ever had anyone defend this particular type of thought is in the gacha community. Nowhere in predominantly, even if like I make it even smaller, Hoyo specific community, and by association, Wuthering Waves specifically. Nowhere else does this concept exist that in-game should be for players who are not ready for in-game. No other community thinks that way at all. Monster Hunter, Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft, Warframe, right? Like no other type of community thinks that way at all.
Hold on. Do Genshin players as a majority think Stygian Onslaught should be removed from the game? I actually don't know. Do they?
I don't think a majority of them think that. I think it's the players who, and keep in mind, right? Genshin is predominantly a casual game.
Right.
Stygian was created for the players who quit a few years ago after Genshin announced that there would be no end game. There was a large drop off in players. Like that's when I quit, because it's like, okay, well, there's nothing to build these characters for. I'm out, right? Like I'll just go do something else with my time. Stygian was created for them. Like there's no reason other than Stygian being in the game for like the difficult players, right? Like, or the players that want the challenge. Everyone else, because they just want that stuff, that's what it is. I can't clear this, so it should be removed from the game. It's not fair that these players get these cool weapon skins, even if it's only for 30 days, but I don't, because I can't clear it and I don't want to do the work to clear it. So they find other, oh, well, I don't have those characters. Meanwhile, 9 times out of 10, they definitely got those characters, right? But because they don't know how to play the game to that high of a level, then it doesn't, it doesn't really matter to them.
I want to circle back to what I said earlier, because you went on a tangent. Nothing wrong with that. But
My bad.
No, you're good. Nothing wrong with that. I love it. I love the energy. But I wanted to ask specifically about Endgame and ZZZ, because, as I mentioned, and Wuthering Waves specifically, the community is completely checked out because there is no difficulty in the endgame. So they'll complain about things like no content. But Stygian is the content. That's where the innovation is bred, right? That's where people go to put more ideas. No one is doing that for Tower right now. Nobody is talking about strategies. Is the same exact thing shown in ZZZ with its endgame currently?
It's kind of the opposite. So maybe in the middle. And to like bounce it back, you're basically saying like in Wuthering, all of the strategies and the depth that the game could be explored in the game isn't really talked about by like the mass majority of players, because there's no reason to do that, right?
Right.
Okay, so in Zenless, a lot of the discoverability or strategies is shared or talked about, but the player base is, as far as the majority, right? The majority of the player base is stuck in this weird split. They don't want to do it because they didn't have to do it before. And before being prior to like 1.7, 1.6, something like that, before Miasma. Okay, so 2.0, right, chat? Before Miasma, players didn't have to care about strategy, matchups, elements, right? Teams, rotations, combos, energy resource management. Like none of that mattered to them because it was too easy. Now the game is no longer too easy. Now, obviously, this is like a factor of like HP inflation, different bosses, new strategies, whatever the case may be, that kind of stuff. Now we have the information. Creators like myself, Yojimbo, Kate, R2, Yoji, right? Nats, like not everyone, a lot of us have been putting out this type of information, and we're still putting out this information. And so we're getting like a little bit more recognition.
Chat, do you guys want me full screen? Or do you guys
But we
want to
still
see
get
playing
those same
Genshin?
comments that you were talking about earlier. This is too hard. I don't want to do this. Or like, hey, is there something easier, right? Like, or do I have to do this to get this clear? Well, what if I don't want 30K? How do I get 20K? Can I, if I don't do this rotation, can I still clear? Right? Like if I don't play with that particular team or that archetype, can I still clear? They're looking for easier solutions or answers so that they don't have to do the work. But the game is at a point now where you borderline need to understand a lot more. Like you need the depth, you need to know the strategies, the teams, or come up with something, right? And this newest boss, the Thrall, is a prime example of that, where it's like he's not the hardest boss in the world, but because you can't just mindlessly mash, you have to learn. A lot of players do not like that, but a lot of players love it.
I forgot what I was
Why would you
gonna
try
ask.
hard in Gacha when you can try hard in games more fair and rewarding? Same reason that I would play Pokemon over Digimon, or play Digimon over Pokemon, right? Or Yu-Gi-Oh. I would play the TCG for Pokemon over Yu-Gi-Oh. I would play Magic over Yu-Gi-Oh, right? It's just personal choice. And then at the same time, which I guess like is the answer for Gacha games. I don't know. Not everybody could afford the other games. Like if you ask me like which one would I rather, hey, play Dark Souls and feel accomplished, or like play Zenless, I'm playing Dark Souls, right? Or like play Monster Hunter, I'm playing Monster Hunter, right? So like, but that's a personal thing.
I don't think there's anything wrong with like gacha games being challenging either. Why do people think gacha games can't be challenging?
Because Gacha,
I mean, pay to win exists for like the existence of like literally always. So like
it's the stigma behind Gacha. That's why I said I only come across this type of like retort in the Gacha space. And I made a tweet about this a long time ago. The Gacha community is the only community where I've been a part of where they use like it's a Gacha game as both a weapon and a shield, or a sword and a shield. When they're like what do I compare it to? A AAA title. Let's say that you were comparing like Wuthering Waves to Breath of the Wild, right? Oh my god,
right?
Wuthering Waves looks so much better than Breath of the Wild. Look how the water looks in 4K. Nintendo can never, right? That's the sword. They're using it as a sword. But then when I flip it and I say, okay, well, Skyrim is a game from 2009 that runs off fucking PS3. The graphics look like shit, but it has a significantly better open world than any Gacha game, especially Wuthering Waves. And like you could play that game for hours on end without ever spending more than like $7, right? Sometimes free if you know how to work the internet. Oh, well, why are you comparing a AAA game from like infamous studio named Bethesda to a small indie company like Kuro who made Wuthering Waves? Like, that's not fair. It's a Gacha game. That's them using it as a shield. It's never a fair fight. Like,
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like it's like either the gacha game is like peak like omega super well made and like nothing can be better or whatever, or it's like it's dog shit, it's a gacha game, what do you expect? But simultaneously I'll keep playing it. I don't understand it. But it's like the thing is like difficult gachas have existed for like ages. Like PvP gachas exist, for example, right? Even though it's pay to win. Like there's like Epic 7, for example. Technically you can pay to win in that. There's probably way more pay to win ones than that. There's like Knights Chronicle. There was like Sinnoh Alice. There's been pay to win gachas since forever. There's nothing wrong with like, I mean, I guess pay to win is inherently like wrong in a way. I'm not a fan of it personally, but
I mean, but like that's original gacha games. If we're talking about it, like the original gacha games, that premise was pay to win. Like the top players at a leaderboard, or like who had the best teams, whatever, it was always the person that spent the most money. Like, even though and we don't have to like talk about it for long, but I bring it up because like that's where I learned about Tectone and Vulcan's origin was it Summoner's War, or was it no, it wasn't Summoner's War. It was some other game they played. But they played it and their whole thing was spending money. Like Tech was number one or like somewhere high on the leaderboard because he spent the most money. And Vulcan was like, his whole thing was, I want to be free to play and beat whales.
yeah.
So his entire thing has always been like, work my ass off or find the best strategies so that I can be at the top of whatever leaderboard I can sit at until I can't go any higher.
That's what I was gonna say. Like free to play players also get like a lot of value out of like saying that they're free to play, right? That's like one of the things they pride themselves on, being able to do whale shit while still being free to play, right? getting high on the E7 leaderboard while being free to play, or getting high on Summoner's War or whatever, right? While still being free to play. That's something that free to play players enjoy. I mean, not to say that like I personally would prefer it if there were like less pay to win in the games, which is better, but I happen to like gacha games. Like if pay to win is like in the game, I don't see why I would want the game to be worse just because pay to win exists. Let me put it like that. I don't know why I wouldn't want Stygian Onslaught if I wouldn't necessarily be able to interact with every single aspect of it if it meant that I had a harder challenge. If it was like just too pay to win and I didn't want to interact with it, I just wouldn't play it then. I just wouldn't play it then. That's fine, but that doesn't mean the mode shouldn't exist.
Well, I mean, I think if we're like briefly talking about it, because I see that you're on your Arknights kick, but I think Arknights actually might be the one to do it. I don't know, but at this current point in time, Genshin is not my favorite gacha by any means.
Right.
But despite people hating Genshin, I think Genshin is currently the closest to the most perfect gacha game. Like a modern gacha game. It's so Genshin gives you everything that you would want as a player. If you were looking at just like a game, right, that had AAA levels of quality,
right,
you can turn it off and on, right, play it at will, whatever, spend money or be free to play. It gives you everything that a player would want. And so what I mean by that is that it gives you the characters, it gives you the story, it gives you events, and it gives you like the building of characters. This is scratching a number of itches. You're getting your open world, you're getting your character builder / progression, you're getting your story, which I don't know if you've seen how long these stories are lately, but they're longer, if not just as long as some AAA or AA game studio games.
I'm on my lore arc right now, so I've been experiencing it a lot. I have like 5 lore streams planned this week. This stream was one. Like, I'm lore maxing.
They're full on games, so like you get everything, and then you get the end game now, right? So you still get your Spiral Abyss, which is the like micro challenge, if you will. You still get your Stygian, and then whatever else you want. And so now you have a reason to build these characters. It's a lot that goes into it. And then ZZZ, I mean, like you can say nah, but unless you can contest what I'm saying, a means of an argument, you can't really just say like, nah, you know what I mean? Because like, what are you gonna say? Wuwa? Like, all right, or Zenless? Like it's no.
Yeah, I think in terms of out of what's out right now, it's probably Genshin or HSR is like the highest quality experience from like the gacha player's perspective, or for whatever gacha is, right? I think it's one of those two.
Yeah.
High key, it's Arknights Enfield when that comes out. On God.
It might be like a prime way of like looking at it, right? Is like I always think about what does the regular person know? Like Pokimane, right? Despite the sponsorship thing, she knows what Genshin is, and she probably plays it on the side. I just found out that Valkyrie plays Genshin and Infinity Nikke regularly.
Right.
Didn't know that, right? But because she doesn't make content or like stream or anything like that, but like she casually plays it, she keeps up with it, like that's her own personal enjoyment. They don't know what the fuck Wuthering Waves is outside of either a sponsor or like seeing it at the Game Awards or the Streamer Awards and then going, what is that? You know what? Like they don't know what Zenless is. They don't know what Star Rail is. Like they know Genshin. Everyone knows Genshin. It's one of those things where like Genshin is such a staple that the modern day take on gacha games is because of Genshin. So when you guys like, oh, I hate Genshin, that's totally fine for you to do. Toyo is the worst company in the world. You can think that. But the average regular person who's enjoying games or like looking at something, if they think of gacha, they think of Genshin. That is the thing that they think of. And they know the story, they know the characters, they have a favorite character, they know the lore. It's easy for them to pick up. They can play it. It's not confusing. There's not like an overwhelming amount of anything. You guys that like, and this is like a micro tangent. I love exploration. I love, like the Wuthering, the zip line, and the flying, and the soon-to-be motorcycle. Most people don't give a fuck about that, bro. I'm not gonna hold you. They don't. You guys care because all y'all do is play gacha games. The other person, like Lily Pichu does not give a fuck about whether or not she can fly or ride a motorcycle. She cares whether or not the game is pretty and if she's gonna enjoy it, right? Or if she can beat somebody's ass.
I think that's one of the things people miss as well. Like games like ZZZ, and we're all right. To be clear, we're literally both. I'm a Wuthering Waves content creator. That's what 80% of the content on my channel is. You're a ZZZ content creator. Despite that, like we can acknowledge, like the games don't necessarily have to be made for every single person to be good, right? But for these games, they appeal to a specific niche, right? I don't. The day I see Pokimane playing ZZZ is the day they spent $2 million to pay her outs to get her to try the game for 30 minutes, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The average player is not playing these games. They see these games and they see how like gooner they are as an example, and they see it as a downside. That's a downside from it. Something they don't like. It's not that they don't or they dislike fan service, but like it's like too over the top for them, and so they're just not going to interact with it, right? Like these are things that appeal to niches. Genshin doesn't do that. Like Genshin has fan service, yeah, but it's not like as in your face about it. Same with HSR. HSR is fan service, right? Like the dolly is literally like flicking her boobs or whatever, but like that's not like 90% of like whatever's going on, right? Meanwhile, Zenless, you have like acid jiggling everywhere. That game's just straight crazy. Well, that's what you're into.
Just there, you know? Yeah, you know, and it's cool. It's cool. I think like, and I love that you guys are loving the conversation we're having. Like Rhinne and I don't know, man. We don't talk about stuff on stream all the time, but we talk about shit all the time. But yeah, no, it's a niche thing. It's niche, and it's one of those things. If we like tie it back to the in-game stuff, to just kind of round it out. The reason that you want that, or rather that like it's good, is because and you know what? Actually, here's a better way to say it. Let's use Genshin again. You can use any game, but I'll use Genshin.
Okay.
If 90% of the game is for that player that we just talked about, the Pokimane, the Valkyrie, the Lily Pichu, right? The Bob. If 90% of the game is for them, and then the developers decide, hey, there's like 10% of our player base, out of the entire player base that we have, there's 10% asking for this difficult thing, this very challenging thing. It doesn't take us a lot to work on it, and we could just do it. Let's just do it. There's not a reason for the 90% to start complaining about something being given to the 10%. This is this, like, okay, if you guys were paying attention to the recent anniversary, they did something for Wales, which I think was the level 100 thing, and Wales got something else. I don't remember what it was, but Wales got like 2 things.
Dude, I forgot that was even in the game. Like I'm literally playing the game right now. I forgot that existed.
Because it's not for you. It doesn't change anything at all. But everyone made such a big deal about it. How come Wales get level 100? That's not fair. Blah 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 blah. And it's like, bro, you have this 10% of players. It's more than 10%, but still, you have this 10% of players spending thousands of dollars on your game. Reward them. Get like hey, we appreciate that you spent 30,000. You spent your whole year's salary on Genshin Impact, bro. We appreciate you so much. Here's an extra character. Here's 2 extra characters and a level 100 just for you, right? It's fine. They're 90%. Why wouldn't they use their voice? And then, all right, this is where I said the entitlement factor comes into play. I'm not trying to silence them. It's not about them not being able to use their voice. It's about them feeling entitled to the thing specifically for the 10%. It's like, okay, and I don't know, are you an only child by chance, or like, do you have siblings that might help me, answer this? No, not you. I know, but anyone that has it, anyone that has like siblings, you'll kind of get what I'm about to say. Okay, when you grow up with siblings, if you're the older child, then you understand what I'm saying almost immediately. If you're the younger child, you don't understand it, and you're the one that's like asking, how come I can't have blank? And so the analogy, or rather the example that I'm giving here, is that whenever one child, or even at work, right, which adults can relate to this now, you've worked for something at your job, you get a promotion, right? You are in that 5%. Your promotion is double the salary of somebody else's, but you've earned it. You worked for it, which means that you get certain things with that promotion, a new office, a new car, or whatever. Now you have the rest of the office that you used to be a part of, right? How come I didn't get that? That's not fair that he got that. I was working hard too. I should get that too. Where's my promotion? It doesn't work that way, right? The same thing with children or with siblings. Yo, I got treated like shit as an older, I didn't personally, but I'm just, right? So like, yo, I didn't get everything that I wanted as an older, eldest child. How come the little one gets everything? Or the reverse, right? My dad spoiled the fuck out of me when I was a kid, because I'm his first son, and his first child, right? Had me at a younger age. So he didn't know what to do. Hey, here's toys. Here's the new game. Here's movies, whatever, right? Spoiled. But then my brother, right? My little brother, he didn't really get spoiled. He got stuff, but it wasn't on the same caliber. So now it's like, hey, how come Iyo gets all this shit? He passed his class. So how come he got that? I didn't pass my class, but I want a new toy too. right? My dad and some of you guys might have the same thing or had the same thing. When I got A's, I got shit, right? Like to encourage me or incentivize me to get good grades, I got shit for my good grades. Money, games, toys, card packs, whatever. Hey, here's my report card. All A's. That means I get 7 things. I want 7 games. Obviously, I ain't rich like that, but y'all get what I'm saying. My brother, he not getting 7 A's, right? My brother is athletic as fuck, killing it in sports. Okay, he might get 2 A's, but then the rest might be B's and C's. You're not getting everything. You get 2 things. You don't get 7. You get 2 things, right? Oh, but that's not fair. I want 7 things. This is what y'all are doing. Like this. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, in a way, I just thought about this. I'm not 100% sure my thoughts on it, but it's like, because these players who aren't even gonna like engage or don't really care about that much about Endgame are like saying things like this, in a way they're kind of gatekeeping the people who do want that stuff, right? Which is kind of ironic, because one of the things they'll talk about is like elitism and like like essentially like, they'll say like you're barring stuff from their game, right? You're being elitist, you're stopping them from like having enjoyment. I feel like it's kind of ironic because they're literally doing the same exact thing. What happens? Have you played Millie Ostra Wonderland?
Yeah.
Have you played Anomaly Arbitration?
No. Wait. That's the Star Rail thingy, right?
Yeah.
I haven't, but I've watched Destiny play it.
Right. I think this kind of goes back to what I said earlier, but that existence of that thing doesn't, just because you can't interact with that thing doesn't mean that like the existence of that thing needs to be barred. Even if there's an end game that exists in a game and it's too hard for you and you can't interact with it in a meaningful way, or you don't want to interact with it in a way, doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist. If you want to have fun in Wuthering Waves and you want to play XYZ in Wuthering Waves and you want to do stuff in Wuthering Waves, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to clear tower or whatever, you want to have fun in tower, that's what you have fun with, there's nothing wrong with that. Does that mean that Tower 2.0 shouldn't exist and it shouldn't be like harder so I can actually get challenged instead of drooling all over myself as I first time every single thing in tower without having to think a single time? I don't think so.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree. You agree with everything I say. We're kindred spirits.
I don't know about everything, but you know, I get what you're
name
down.
one thing. Name one thing you disagree with. Go.
Fuck. You know what? Ask me later. I'll have something for sure.